So today we're going to be looking at a scenario where Europe tries to recolonize Africa in 2021. Now obviously the colonization of Africa was not a good thing. I'm going to be trying to make this video realistic. I even gathered some statistics before I start. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you're new, and let's go ahead and get into it. Now looking at the population of Europe, it is roughly 746 million. While the population of Africa is roughly 1.2 billion. When it comes to the average GDP, now this is for the European Union and not all of Europe. So for Europe, it is 15 trillion, and for Africa, it is around 2.6 trillion. For number of military personnel, it is around 1 to 3 million in each continent. Now, I couldn't find a source for either of the numbers, and I know that Europe has over a million, and I know that Africa has over a million, so I just kind of guessed that it would be up to 3 million. And finally, the number of countries. In Europe, there's 44, and in Africa, there's 54. Now, of course, this isn't taking into factor a lot of other things, such as military equipment, recruitable population, and things like that. These are just some very vague statistics to give us an idea of what could happen. Alright, so here we go. Now, for Africa's own sake, I'm not going to be including Russia in the European team. Now, of course, Navy is going to be playing a big role in this war, as Europe and Africa aren't connected. So taking a quick look at a Navy map, this is what we have with Europe, obviously controlling the waters around Europe, and with Africa controlling the waters around Africa. So at first, we have the European Navy kicking back the African Navy, and Europe's Navy capturing the coast around Africa, except for Egypt. Now, Spain does own some land over here in Morocco, like little tiny bits of land. So Morocco is going to go ahead and seize that. Now, this isn't shown on the map because it's too small, but that is now under Moroccan claim. From here, the European Navy starts to push back the Egyptian Navy. Now, with Egypt taking control of the Suez Canal, they're obviously not going to let any European ships travel through here. That means Europe has to go around and over to Asia in order to get their trading items. So trade for Europe is going to be a lot slower than normal, whereas Africa controls most of the trade that goes through Suez Canal. So they're going to be okay. Nonetheless, though, Europe does start to make naval invasions, as one is made in Tunisia, another in Algeria, one in Libya, and one in northern Morocco. So with a total of 4 landings so far, Europe is probably going to primarily run around the coast, gathering the coastal cities. From there, they'd probably push down into Africa, probably avoiding the Saharan Desert, as the Saharan Desert doesn't really have anything in it to begin with. But the real tough fighting is going to be in the African superpowers, such as Egypt, South Africa, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Nigeria. So at first, the Tunisian landing goes pretty well as they start to capture the coast around Tunisia. Same thing with Libya, taking advantage of the Libyan civil war. The Europeans push around the Libyan coast and capture the Libyan capital. From here, they push up and meet with their Tunisian landing and manage to take the capital of Tunisia. Over in the Mediterranean, the Egyptian Navy is starting to push back the European Navy just a little bit, as the Navy has been more focused on the landings over here and protecting their landing spots. Basically, this gives way to Egypt to push back the European Navy in the region and start to take back some of their coastal waters. Over west, Morocco starts to push back the European landing in northern Morocco, and Algeria manages to push back their landing as well. But taking advantage of their large claim over Tunisia, the European army starts to cross the border into Algeria. They also start to push down the Libyan coast. Morocco manages to completely kick out Spain, and Algeria nearly kicks out France. They do stop though, as the main European army in the east is starting to push towards Algiers. After losing about 85% of their land, Tunisia surrenders to Europe, and just like that, Europe has capitulated its first African country. At the same time, the main European army eventually meets up with the French European army, and they manage to take the entire coast of Algeria. In the east, Egypt and Libya start to push back the European landing spot, while at the same time managing to push back into Tunisia. Over near Western Sahara and Morocco, the European Navy has managed to completely cut off Morocco from the rest of Africa via water, and a landing in the unorganized Western Sahara is planned. They eventually make their landing and start to push into the territory. From here, this army starts to push up north into Morocco, while the main European army also starts to push into Morocco. Spain makes another landing in northern Morocco. This time it is a bigger success than the others, and starts to capture the coast of Morocco. Over in the east, the European army continues to be pushed back by Egypt and Libya, but more progress is being made by this European army as they push further into Algeria, Tunisia, and even western Libya. Eventually, the European army manages to capture the entire Moroccan coast. After the fall of Morocco's capital, the country slowly starts to fall apart as the European army starts to push in from all angles. Eventually, Morocco surrenders and becomes the second country to surrender to Europe. Followed suit is Western Sahara, and soon after that, the Algerian government collapses. Now, the reason I didn't color all of Algeria in is because, like I said, the Sahara Desert does exist. Therefore, rebellious groups and other military groups would also try to, prevent Europe from invading. They might try to fight the European army. Now, obviously, it's not going to be as strong as, let's say, Algeria's military, but it still technically counts as an African army. Therefore, it's still represented on the map. Anyway, now with a connected front, Europe starts a bigger push into Africa. A campaign is started to reinvade Libya. As it goes very successfully, they manage to capture the capital Libya and push back the Egyptian military. After negotiating with the rebellious groups in Libya, they manage to completely take out the Libyan government and the country surrenders. Now, same thing with Algeria. There's going to be groups that try to prevent Europe from invading, so that's why it's not fully colored in pink. But now Europe's main objective is to wipe out Egypt, which is a northern African power. Now, if they're able to knock out Egypt, they are able to capture the Suez Canal, which means trade can now be easier for Europe, and they get more supplies, more money, things like that. So Europe starts a huge campaign into northern Egypt with lots of loss of life. After capturing major cities such as Alexandria, the European army starts to push down the Nile River. But as they meet the Egyptian military, they are slowed down as the Egyptian military is putting up a fierce defense. The first battle of Cairo happens and it ends in a European loss. But at the same time the battle was happening, the Europeans pushed down and captured the Suez Canal. What this means for Europe is that they now control trade going in and out of the Mediterranean, which means they can now allow their own ships to pass through. And yeah, they get all their stuff back. So after capturing the panhandle of Egypt, the Europeans start to focus on the coast of Egypt and get closer and closer to Cairo. Now with this, the second battle of Cairo happens, this time ending in a European victory. This then allows Europe to move down the Nile and take even more major cities. After capturing a majority of Egypt's population, the country surrenders. So this is the map that we have so far. Now, lots of progress has been made on Europe's side. Now, obviously, Africa would probably not be able to invade Europe. Now, I said probably, not like 100% indefinite, but, I mean, it's unlikely. Sorry if my voice is, like, kind of getting messed up. That's just because I have a cough. It's weird because it's not a cold. It's just a cough, which usually whenever I have a cough, it's because I have a cold. Anyway, back down in Western Africa, the Europeans start to push down the coast. Now, a lot of these smaller countries don't have that big of militaries, so pushing through them is pretty easy. Actually, if you were to take a look back, a lot of the purple area has little to no military. So the Europeans push down the western coast of Africa, taking out the major cities and many, many countries. They are stopped at the Nigerian border, though, as Nigeria is another African superpower, so pushing into Nigeria would not be that easy. Now, taking a look back real quick, the upper blue area over here is mostly the Saharan desert, so pushing into it isn't going to be easy. But for the sake of this video making more sense, I'm going to go ahead and color it under Europe. Now, that's mainly because it just kind of looks better on the map if you think about it. I don't want to have to color in all of Southern Africa and then just have this big blue blob up here in Northern Africa. So we're just going to go ahead and color it under Europe, even though technically Europe isn't occupying it. It's kind of like what I did in my last video where each continent went to war. If you haven't seen that video, you should check it out. There was an icon at the beginning of this video. But yeah, the Saharan desert is mostly not occupied by Europe. I'm not going to say it anymore. Let's go ahead and get back into it. So back over near Egypt, the European army continues to push back Sudan as they are the last main power over here in Northern Africa. Europe then pushes down into Chad and takes out the country with ease. Now, realistically, Europe wouldn't be able to take on Chad. Chad is too Chad for Europe. Anyway, Europe now starts to threaten Nigeria as they get closer and closer to capitulating the country. Not really, they're just pushing in. But anyway, the European army pushes down the coast and captures major cities. After talking with rebellious groups in Nigeria, they all make an agreement, and Nigeria falls to the Europeans. Now, would Nigeria actually fall like that? No, probably not. It would be a lot more complicated. Back over in Sudan, the European army continues to capture more and more of Sudan. Now, like I said, Saharan desert kind of exists, so this isn't like very accurate, I guess. But once again, after capturing the capital of Sudan, the country surrenders. Europe then enters into Eritrea and easily manages to capture the country, but they do face resistance when it comes to Ethiopia. Over in the east, they continue to push down into now sub-Saharan Africa. They capture Kara, which is a very essential country, and then push down into Equatorial Guinea. Now at this point, Europe is going to be running low on manpower and resources, but the same thing could be said for Africa. Now since Europe is the aggressor here and they're doing the invading, obviously they're going to run out of resources faster. But, like, I want to say, like, 40% of Africa has already been captured. So Europe takes a quick look back real quick and starts to reassess their plan. Now, pushing all the way through and down to South Africa is completely possible, but it's going to be hard, and there's probably going to be more efficient ways to do it. So Europe makes a plan to make some more landings. The first landing being in Madagascar, another one in Mozambique, and another off the coast of Kenya. So Europe takes their navy, which can now be removed from this area, and move down to Southern Africa, and captures the coast of these countries. From here, they make a swift landing in Madagascar and manage to take out the country, and then follow suit with a landing in Mozambique and a landing in Kenya. Now, with these two landings made over here in mainland Africa, these countries up here are going to see that and probably start to send some of their armies down here to defend these other countries. What this means is that some troops would be removed from the front lines, and Europe would be able to take advantage of that and push in. So Europe does exactly that and starts to push into northern Ethiopia and captures Djibouti. They also manage to capture South Sudan and then push down over into Kenya. They easily manage to take over Uganda and then meet up with their front in Kenya. So now we have Eastern Africa, which has been separated from the rest of Africa. So after talking with some military groups in Somaliland, they managed to take over the entire region. And from here, they start to push in on all sides and make Ethiopia capitulate. The landing that was made in Mozambique is eventually kicked out, as Africa's army in the region is far superior to the small European landing that was made. Africa also makes progress in kicking back Europe over here in the west, but rearranging has to happen as Europe starts to push down into Tanzania. At this point, Europe makes another landing in Mozambique, this time with even more troops, and starts to capture the coast of the country. From here, they connect their fronts, and the full-on East African invasion is started. At this point, Africa starts to lose hope as even more European landings are made, this time in Western Africa, and at this point negotiations are starting to be made between the African countries and the European countries. Now your opinion may differ from mine, which is completely okay because everyone's opinion is different. There's not two people in this world with identical opinions, so, I mean, you can get mad at me in the comments, that's fine, you have different opinions. This is how I think it would play out. Now would Europe be as powerful? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how Africa's military is. I know that a lot of African countries have big militaries, but equipment-wise, I'm not sure how they're doing. So this could be realistic. This could be me being nice to Africa. I didn't mean to hit that, but I'm not sure. When it comes to continents, the two continents that I know the least about are Africa and South America. That's just because of the U.S. school system. Doesn't teach us much about it. They do teach a lot of European and Asian history, though, which I think is good because there's a lot of history in both of these continents. But there's also a lot of history in Africa and South America. So why don't they teach it? I don't know. Now, when it comes to colonies, we have a obviously pretty similar, but also a pretty different map here of Africa. So as we see, a lot of the Western European countries got a lot of the countries they had previously colonized, such as Egypt getting a lot of the Nile area, and France getting a lot of Central Africa. But we do have some changes. For one, we have Portugal getting colonies over here in Western Africa. Now, this is mainly because they asked for colonies, and this time they actually got them. They also got their bit of Mozambique, but it's not the entire thing. Germany got all their old colonies back, so that was Tanzania, Cameroon. Italy gets Tunisia and Libya. Spain gets almost all of northwestern Africa, and we actually have Poland getting colonies, which is kind of weird at an overlook, but compared to the rest of the European countries, Poland is pretty strong. Now, of course, more countries could have gotten colonies, but the countries in here are kind of isolated, like, for, say, Serbia. They wouldn't get any colonies because they don't even have coastal access. Romania just has the Black Sea, so it would be kind of a hassle to maintain these colonies. The only other country I could see getting colonies is Greece. So, like, maybe something down here in northern Libya. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. So this is the colonized map of Africa. Now, South Africa and Madagascar was left alone because simply Europe didn't invade it, therefore didn't have enough, like, war score to annex all of it. But yeah, like I said earlier, colonization was not a good thing. I'm not trying to support it in this video or anything like that. It was horrible. But this was just a 2021 comparison where Africa actually has, like, tanks and stuff. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That really helps me out. If you want to see more videos like this, tell me in the comments. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.